The shotgun blast ripped through the night like a thunderclap from hell, echoing off the canyon walls as I vaulted the splintered fence, my boots kicking up dust that tasted like regret. Blood pounded in my ears, hot and furious, matching the rhythm of my sprint, heart slamming against ribs that felt too fragile for the weight of the badge on my chest. In that split second, as the shadow of the thief vanished into the looming silhouette of the abandoned barn, I realized with a gut-twist certainty that this chase wasn't just about justice anymore. It was about the man I'd become, the one who'd buried his truths so deep they clawed their way out in moments like this. I hit the barn door at full tilt, shoulder first, the wood groaning like an old man's confession before it gave way in a shower of rust flakes and forgotten hay. The air inside was thick, musty with the ghosts of livestock long gone, pierced only by a sliver of moonlight slicing through a cracked board. My Glock was out, steady in my grip, but the thief was a phantom now. Gone, or so I thought, until a low voice, smooth as aged whiskey and twice as warm, cut through the shadows. "Easy there, city boy. You look like you've seen a rattlesnake in your whiskey." I whipped around, barrel trained on the figure emerging from the gloom, but froze when the lantern light caught him. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a jaw carved from the same rugged stone as the Rockies, and eyes the color of storm-tossed seas that pinned me in place. He wasn't the thief. No frantic energy, no wild desperation. Just a cowboy, leaning against a stall post with a pitchfork in one hand like it was an extension of his soul. His flannel shirt rolled to the elbows, revealing forearms etched with the honest scars of a life wrestled from the land. Joseph Hale, that's me, 32, detective with the Denver PD, chasing shadows across state lines because some lowlife art forger thought he could outrun his crimes. But in that barn, on the outskirts of some godforsaken Wyoming town called Dust Hollow, I wasn't chasing anymore. I was found. He didn't flinch at the gun, just arched a brow that said he'd stared down worse than a jumpy cop with a vendetta. "Name's Nicholas Kane," he drawled, the words rolling off his tongue with that lazy drawl that screamed Heartland born and bred. "And if you're lookin' for trouble, you've bedded down in the wrong stable. Thief hightailed it out the back 20 minutes ago, headin' for the old mine shafts up the ridge." His lips quirked, not quite a smile, but enough to make my pulse stutter in a way that had nothing to do with the adrenaline crash. I lowered the Glock slowly, holstering it as if my hands remembered how to trust again, which they sure as hell didn't after 5 years on the force, watching partners burn out and lovers ghost like smoke. "Thanks for the tip," I muttered, wiping sweat from my brow, the cool night air doing little to chill the flush creeping up my neck. Up close, Nicholas smelled like pine sap and sun-baked leather, a far cry from the stale coffee and exhaust of my precinct life. He nodded toward a rickety stool by a makeshift workbench cluttered with bridles and half-repaired saddles. "Sit. You look like you could use a breather before you keel over." I hesitated. Protocol screamed to radio in, "Pursue." But my legs betrayed me, folding onto the stool as exhaustion hit like a freight train. He poured coffee from a thermos into a chipped mug, handing it over with fingers that brushed mine just long enough to spark something electric, forbidden in its gentleness. We talked, or rather, he talked, and I listened, nursing the bitter brew that warmed me from the inside out. Nicholas was 40, give or take, a ranch hand who'd inherited this patch of nothing after his folks passed in a freak blizzard a decade back. No wife, no kids, just him, the horses, and the endless sky that stretched like a promise unkept. "This place," he said, gesturing to the barn's cavernous belly. "It's got stories in every beam. Love lost, fights won, the kind of quiet that heals if you let it." His voice dipped low on that last part, eyes flicking to mine with an intensity that made me shift, suddenly aware of the space between us shrinking like a closing trap. I told him about the case in clipped sentences, the stolen Rembrandts from a Denver gallery, the trail leading here, my ex-partner who'd bailed on me 2 years back, leaving me questioning if trust was just another word for fool's gold. By dawn, the thief was in cuffs, courtesy of a tip from Nicholas that led my back up straight to the mine. But as I stood in the crisp morning light, shaking his calloused hand goodbye, something lodged in my chest. A hook named Nicholas Kane, tugging at threads I'd long since knotted shut. "If you're ever passin' through again," he said, that half-smile blooming full now. Doors open. Courage ain't always about chasing. Sometimes it's about staying put. I drove back to Denver with the radio silent, the empty highway mirroring the hollow in my gut. Little did I know, that barn wasn't the end of the chase. It was the starting line for a reckoning that would strip me bare and rebuild me in ways I never imagined. Weeks blurred into a monotonous grind back in the city. Depositions, dead-end leads on the forgery ring. Nights spent staring at the ceiling of my one-bedroom apartment, the walls closing in like a vice. My phone buzzed one evening with an unknown number. Wyoming area code. Heard you closed the case. Coffee's on if you need a break from the concrete jungle. Nicholas. No preamble, just that effortless pull like gravity bending toward him. I typed back before reason could intervene. On my way. Be there by sundown. The drive was therapy in itself. Interstate giving way to winding backroads flanked by aspens turning gold. The Rockies rising like ancient guardians. Dust Hollow welcomed me with a single stoplight and a diner where locals eyed my out-of-state plates with polite suspicion. Nicholas was waiting at the barn, silhouetted against the sunset, a fresh pot of coffee steaming on the workbench. Knew you'd come, he said simply, handing me a mug as if we'd never parted. We walked the property that evening. Acres of sagebrush and wildflowers nodding in the breeze, a herd of mustangs grazing lazy in the corral. He pointed out constellations as night fell, his voice weaving tales of his grandfather. A Navajo cowboy who'd taught him that the stars didn't judge, they just witnessed. That first visit stretched into a weekend, then a week. Vacation days I'd hoarded like secrets. We mended fences, both literal and not. I confessed over a campfire the ache of coming out in a precinct that preached brotherhood but whispered slurs. The lover who'd left because cops and cowboys don't mix. Nicholas listened without interruption, his hand finding mine across the flames, thumb tracing circles that spoke volumes. I lost my brother to the life, he admitted one night, voice rough as gravel. AIDS took him in '98, back when folks still thought it was God's punishment. Taught me love's the only thing worth riding out the storm for. In the firelight, his face softened, vulnerabilities etching lines that made him more real, more mine. Our first kiss happened unscripted, under a canopy of stars that felt like they were holding their breath. We'd been laughing over a botched attempt at roping a calf, me, all city clumsiness, him patient as the earth, when he cupped my face, drawing me in slow, deliberate. His lips were warm, tasting of salt and unspoken promises, and in that moment, the world narrowed to the press of his chest against mine, the gentle scrape of stubble that grounded me like nothing else. It wasn't fireworks. It was a quiet hearth, building slow and sure. We made love that night in the hayloft, bodies moving with a reverence that honored the scars we both carried. No rush, no conquest, just two men finding solace in the rhythm of heartbeats sinking like well-worn gears. But paradise has a way of cracking under pressure. My captain called midweek. Hail, that forger you nabbed? He's singing. Says his boss has ties to a rancher out your way. Kane, ring a bell. My blood turned to ice, the phone slipping from numb fingers. Nicholas, denying it all with those sea-blue eyes wide in hurt confusion. Joseph, you can't believe. But the evidence mounted like storm clouds. Falsified land deeds traced to his property. A hidden safe in the barn yielding sketches matching the stolen art. Betrayal hit like a gut punch. Not just the lie, but the intimacy weaponized, every tender moment now suspect. I stormed out that night, tires spinning gravel as accusations flew like buckshot. Back in Denver, sleep evaded me, haunted by memories of his touch, the way he'd murmur my name like a prayer. Nicholas's texts came in waves. Let me explain. It's not what you think. I deleted them one by one, building walls higher than the Rockies. The case escalated, federal involvement, whispers of money laundering through ranch sales to fund the ring. My partner, Lena, cornered me in the bullpen. Joe, this Kane guy's clean on paper, but gut says otherwise. You sleeping on it? I wasn't sleeping at all, just drowning in the what-ifs. The ache of loving someone who might have played me for a fool. The precinct became a pressure cooker. Every stack of files a reminder of the man who'd unraveled me. Lena dragged me to a dive bar after shift one rainy Tuesday, her no-nonsense ponytail swinging like a metronome. Spill Hale. You've been a ghost since Wyoming. Over cheap whiskey that burned less than the truth, I confessed fragments. The chase, the barn, Nicholas's laugh echoing in my skull like a half-remembered dream. She listened, nursing her beer, then slid a photo across the scarred table. Nicholas, younger, arms slung around a sharp-faced man in a suit, both grinning at some rodeo gala. Associate of the forger's boss. Small world. Huh. Nausea roiled in my gut, but doubt flickered. Those eyes in the photo held the same quiet strength, not malice. I drove to Dust Hollow unannounced, the storm chasing me like penance, wipers slashing rain from the windshield in futile arcs. The ranch loomed dark, only a porch light bleeding yellow welcome. Nicholas opened the door barefoot, flannel unbuttoned over a white tee clinging damp from the downpour. His hair tousled as if he'd been wrestling sleep. Joseph, he breathed, surprise melting into relief, then wariness as I thrust the photo under his nose. Who the hell is this? Your partner in crime. He stepped back, ushering me inside to the kitchen where the air smelled of cornbread and coffee grounds. The table between us felt like a chasm as he sank into a chair, rubbing his temples. That was 10 years ago. Harlan Voss, old flame, bad end. He talked big about flipping art for quick cash. But I cut ties when it got shady. Swore I'd never touch that world again. His voice cracked on the last word, eyes pleading for the trust I'd yanked away. I wanted to believe him, God. I did. The way his hands trembled slightly, the raw edge to his confession mirroring my own fractures. But the badge was a blindfold, protocol a chain. Feds are coming tomorrow. If you're lying. I'm not. He interrupted, standing to close the distance, his palm pressing flat against my chest over my racing heart. Search the place, tear it apart, but stay tonight. Let me show you who I am, not what some snapshot says. Rain hammered the roof like accusations, but his touch anchored me, pulling me under until resistance dissolved. We didn't speak much after that, words too jagged for the fragile bridge we were rebuilding. Instead, he led me upstairs to a bedroom sparse as his life. Iron bedstead, quilt pieced from his mother's hands, a window framing lightning-veined skies. There, in the storm's fury, we reclaimed each other. Not with desperation, but a slow unraveling, clothes shed like old skins, bodies mapping forgiveness in whispers and sighs. Morning brought clarity and catastrophe. Federal agents swarmed the ranch at dawn, badges glinting like accusations as they combed the barn, the house, unearthing nothing but echoes of our night. Nicholas stood beside me on the porch, arm brushing mine in silent solidarity, his jaw set against the intrusion. Agent Ramirez, a wiry woman with eyes like flint, cornered us by the corral. Kane, you're lucky. Voss flipped on everyone but you. Says you walked clean years back. Relief washed over me, tidal and humbling. But Nicholas's face drained of color, gaze fixed on the horizon. Lucky? He echoed, voice hollow. Harlan's rotting in a cell because of me. I tipped off the sheriff back then. Anonymous. Kept my name out to protect the ranch, but it cost him everything. The betrayal inverted in an instant. Not his but mine, for doubting the man who'd bared his soul without armor. As the feds departed, tails between legs, I pulled him into the barn, the same shadowed sanctuary where we'd met. Forgive me, I murmured against his temple, arms wrapping him tight as if to mend the fractures I'd inflicted. He leaned into me, breath shuddering. Only if you stay long enough to mean it. That afternoon we rode out together, him on a chestnut mare named Echo, me awkward on a gentle gelding. Up the ridge to the mine shafts where the chase had ended. Wind whipped our hair, sage-scented and sharp as he shared more. His brother's illness, the isolation of a town that whispered about that queer cowboy. The quiet pride in tending land that didn't demand he hide. Back at the ranch, life wove us tighter. Me splitting time between Denver and Dust Hollow. filing for remote casework that bought me weeks at a stretch. We built routines. Mornings with coffee on the porch, watching Mustang's silhouette against dawn. Evenings mending tack by lantern light, his stories of rodeo glories filling the air like smoke. Intimacy deepened, not in grand gestures but the poetry of the everyday. His hand steadying mine on the reins, my fingers tracing the faded tattoo on his collarbone. A Navajo sun's symbol for endurance. Yet shadows lingered. My captain grumbled about distractions. And Nicholas's silences grew when mail brought legal notices about Voss's impending trial, dredging up ghosts. One crisp October evening, as leaves turned the aspens to fire, conflict ignited like dry tinder. I'd driven up after a brutal week, a botched sting leaving a rookie shot, guilt gnawing my bones. Nicholas sensed it, pulling me into the kitchen where stew simmered, rich with venison and root vegetables. But when I shrugged off his concern with a curt, "Just work," his patience snapped. "Damn it, Joseph, you're shutting me out again. Like I'm some side quest from your city life." His words landed like lashes, eyes stormy with the hurt of a man who'd learned to expect abandonment. I fired back, venom born of exhaustion. "And you're the one who kept secrets first. How do I know this isn't all part of some bigger con?" The air crackled, thick with unspoken fears. Mine of losing the force that defined me. His of loving a man chained to a world that might yank him away. He turned, shoulders rigid, voice dropping to a whisper that cut deeper than shouts. "Maybe you don't. Maybe courage is walking away before you break what's left." The door slammed behind him, leaving me in the cooling kitchen, stew forgotten, the echo of his boots fading into night. I didn't chase him then, stubborn pride rooting me to the spot, but regret bloomed like frost, crystallizing the truth. Nicholas wasn't a detour. He was home, the gentle anchor to my reckless storm. Hours ticked by in agony, me pacing the porch, scanning the dark for his silhouette. When he returned near midnight, face streaked with trail dust and something wetter, I met him halfway, words tumbling out in a rush. "I was wrong. Scared, not of you, of needing you this much." He pulled me close, rain-damp flannel soaking through my shirt, his embrace a lifeline. "Me too," he admitted, lips brushing my ear. "Thought I'd learned my lesson with Harlan. Love too risky. But you're worth the gamble." We talked till dawn, vulnerabilities laid bare like open wounds, cauterizing them with honesty. The fight didn't shatter us. It forged something stronger, a bond tempered in fire. Winter descended on Dust Hollow like a velvet shroud, blanketing the ranch in hush. Holidays approached, and with them the weight of family. Mine scattered across Nebraska, expecting the prodigal son at Thanksgiving with tales of glory, not a cowboy lover. Nicholas, solitary by habit, suggested we forge our own tradition. A feast in the barn, strung with lights pilfered from the attic, tables groaning under turkey and pie. "No judgments here," he said, stringing bulbs with that boyish grin that melted my reservations. I invited Lena, the one ally who'd earned her stripes, and she arrived with a bottle of bourbon and zero bullshit, toasting us with a wink. "About time you found your heart, hail." As snow swirled outside, we carved out joy, laughter echoing off beams. Nicholas's hand warm in mine under the table. A quiet defiance against a world that still measured love in straight lines. But Voss's trial loomed, subpoena pulling Nicholas to Denver as a witness, dredging up the past in fluorescent-lit courtrooms. I sat beside him in the gallery, badge burning a hole in my pocket, as Harlan's glare raked over us, venomous and impotent. Nicholas testified steady, voice unwavering. I walked away because right mattered more than loyalty. Love's the same, choosing truth over comfort. The words hung, a manifesto for us both, as the judge's gavel sealed Voss's fate. Spring thawed the ground and our hesitations. I put in for transfer to the Wyoming State Police outpost in Cheyenne closer, a compromise that honored both worlds. Nicholas met me halfway, too, opening the ranch books to a local co-op, proving transparency in every ledger. Our love bloomed overt now. Rides through greening pastures, hands intertwined. Nights tangled in quilts, whispers planning a future stitched from dreams. Yet climax brewed in the unlikeliest storm. A wildfire sparked by lightning, racing down the ridge toward Dust Hollow like vengeance incarnate. Sirens wailed as evacuation orders crackled over the radio. The sky choked with smoke that stung like betrayal's aftertaste. Nicholas and I loaded the horses into trailers. His face smudged with soot, determination etching deeper lines around his eyes. "We'll save what we can," he said, voice steady as he hitched the last buckle. But I saw the flicker. The ranch, his legacy, teetering on the edge of ash. I grabbed his arm, pulling him close amid the chaos. "Not just the land, you. Promise me." He nodded, fierce, sealing it with a kiss tasting of urgency and earth. The fire line held barely, crews battling flames that clawed like living beasts, but the barn, the heart of our story, caught late in the fray. We watched from the ridge, safe but gutted, as embers danced like malevolent fireflies, consuming beams that had witnessed our first meeting, our reconciliations. Nicholas's hand clenched in mine, knuckles white, a silent sob escaping as the roof caved. "It's gone," he whispered, the weight of loss bowing his shoulders. But in that desolation, something shifted, me stepping forward, not as the chaser, but the guardian. "We'll build it back. Together." He turned, eyes glistening, and in them, I saw not defeat, but the spark of renewal, courage manifesting gentle as a shared breath. Rebuilding became our odyssey. Summer sun baking the cleared lot, where volunteers hammered fresh timbers under Nicholas's watchful eye. I took leave, trading badge for hammer, blisters a badge of devotion. Lena helicoptered supplies from Denver, her truck bed laden with tools and that irreverent humor. Nothing says romance like tetanus shots and splinters. Amid the sweat and sawdust, our bond deepened, late nights poring over blueprints by lantern light. His head on my shoulder, dreams sketched in pencil strokes. A community space, not just a barn, open to strays and stories alike. But betrayal's shadow resurfaced in autumn's gold. Not from Nicholas, but the system I'd sworn to. A leaked report from Voss's trial painted Nicholas as a reluctant informant. Whispers in the outpost branding him untrustworthy. My captain, transferred to Cheyenne, coincidence be damned, summoned me. "Hail, this rancher's clouding your judgment. Step back, or it steps you." Rage boiled, hot and unbidden. I'd clawed my way up, outed and outcast, only to face this? I tendered resignation that night, driving to Dust Hollow with the letter crumpled in my fist, storming the half-built barn where Nicholas planed a beam, muscles flexing in rhythmic grace. "I quit," I announced, voice cracking like thunder. He set the tool down slow, wiping sweat from his brow, concern etching his features. "For me," I nodded, the admission freeing as flight. "No, for us. The badge was armor, but it's chafing now. I want mornings here, not stakeouts." He crossed the space in 3 strides, enveloping me in arms that smelled of pine and promise, our foreheads touching in wordless vow. "You sure?" he murmured, doubt threading his tone. "I won't be the reason you lose yourself." But I was finding myself, piece by reclaimed piece, in the curve of his smile, the land we tamed together. Winter's hush brought milestones. The barn's grand reopening, strung with lights and filled with locals who'd thawed to our city boy and cowboy tale. A fiddler played hoedowns that had even Lena two-stepping, and as snow dusted the eaves, Nicholas pulled me aside to the new hayloft, a ladder rung with our initials carved discreet. "Marry me," he said simply, ring fashioned from a horseshoe nail, polished to silver gleam. Tears pricked my eyes, not from joy alone, but the humanism of it. 2 men, scarred by loss and lies, choosing each other in a world that often turned away. "Yes," I breathed, sealing it with a kiss that tasted of forever. Yet no ending is without echo. Spring unearthed a final twist. A letter from Voss, forwarded through channels, scrawled in prison ink. "Cain, you stole my heart and my freedom. Hale, watch your back. He's poison." Paranoia nipped, but Nicholas burned it unread, ashes scattering on the wind. "Ghosts don't get to haunt us anymore," he declared, and in his certainty, I found absolution. We exchanged vows in the barn that summer, under a canopy of wildflowers, Lena officiating with mock solemnity, a handful of ranch hands bearing witness. No fanfare, just the land's quiet blessing. Rings exchanged as Mustangs nickered approval. Years folded like well-worn pages. The ranch thrived as haven, hosting queer youth retreats where stories like ours bloomed unchecked. I wrote a memoir. Our story, raw and redemptive. Titled it after that fateful hook, Sales funding scholarships for kids chasing dreams amid doubt. Nicholas aged like good whiskey, silver threading his temples, his gentleness a beacon drawing strays home. We'd argue still, over fence lines or my stubborn streak. But makeups were sacraments, bodies and souls entwining in affirmation. One dawn, as frost kissed the corral, Nicholas saddled Echo for our ritual ride, his hand lingering on mine. You taught me courage's quiet face, he said, eyes crinkling. I smiled, heart full. And you showed me homes where the heart chases to stay, in America's vast heartland, amid barns rebuilt and loves unbetrayed. We rode into the light, gentle, unbroken, eternally hooked. The summer after the fire, Dust Hollow's annual rodeo rolled in like a dust devil. Tents pitching on the fairgrounds with the scent of cotton candy and grilled steak hanging heavy in the air. Nicholas entered the bronc riding, his easy confidence masking the nerves I spotted in the way he fiddled with his chaps, leather creaking under his fingers. Haven't competed since the Voss days, he admitted over breakfast, biscuits flaky and golden from his oven. I reached across the table, squeezing his wrist. You'll kill it, and if not, I've got your back. His laugh was low, appreciative, but shadowed old wounds from a community that had once cheered his skill, then turned when rumors of his preferences surfaced. The arena pulsed with life that afternoon. Locals in Stetsons and boots, kids waving flags, the announcer's voice booming over crackling speakers. I sat ringside, heart in my throat as Nicholas mounted, the bronc, a wiry bay named Fury, bucking wild under him. 8 seconds stretched eternal, his body a fluid arc of control, hat flying as the buzzer sounded. The crowd roared, but as he dismounted, grinning through sweat, a cluster of older ranchers nearby muttered just loud enough. Cane's still ridin' high, but wonder who's warm in his saddle these days. My fists clenched, badge instinct surging, but Nicholas caught my eye, shaking his head subtle, a plea for grace over grudge. That night, buckle shining on the mantle, we celebrated alone in the barn's shadow, the new structure sturdy with beams we'd hewn together. Fireflies danced as he pulled me into a slow sway. No music but the cricket's chorus. Thanks for not decking those fossils, he murmured, lips grazing my temple. I chuckled, but confession bubbled up. Grew up hearing worse in Nebraska. Dad called it tough love. Beat the queer out of me with belts and Bible verses. Took years to unlearn. He stilled, hands framing my face. Mine was quieter. Mom's tears when I told her about my brother. Dad's silence after. But look at us. Still standing. Our kiss deepened there, under stars pricking the velvet sky. A testament to resilience woven from shared silences. Fall brought family reckonings. My sister, Emily, wired from Omaha. Mom's asking about you. Thanksgiving? Bring pie, not drama. Dread coiled. Last visit, 3 years back, ended in slammed doors after Dad's. That's not how we raised you over turkey carcass. Nicholas sensed it, brewing tea strong as his resolve. Go. Show him the man I love. Flaws and all. I drove east, heart heavy as harvest moon, the flatlands blurring into memory. The farmhouse loomed unchanged. Sagging porch, fields gold with corn. Mom hugged fierce, Dad nodded curt, Emily chattering to fill voids. Dinner cracked open old fissures. Emily's husband joked about metro boys. Innocent enough, but Dad latched on. Joseph's gone native out west, chasing skirts or whatever cowboys do. The table froze. Mom's fork clattered. I met his gaze, voice even. Actually, Dad, I'm with someone, a man. Nicholas. He's good, better than good. Silence swallowed the room, Dad's face purpling, Mom whispering prayers. Emily bridged. He's happy? Pop, isn't that enough? But Dad stormed out, screen door banging like finality. Mom lingered later, pressing a quilt into my arms, her wedding gift, repurposed. Love's love, son, even if it don't fit the pattern. The drive back was catharsis, tears drying to determination. Nicholas waited with stew and open arms, listening as I unpacked the wreckage. You faced it, he said, pride warming his tone. That's courage gentle as yours. We spent nights after mending more than fences, letters to my family, tentative olive branches that yielded no replies, but planted seeds nonetheless. His own kin was dust, but the ranch hands became surrogate. Old-timers swapping yarns, young wranglers learning ropes and respect under our watchful eyes. Winter's grip tightened with unexpected mail. A package from Cheyenne, unmarked. Inside, a sketchbook, pages filled with forgeries eerily like the originals from my case, and a note in Voss's hand. Kane's little secret. He drew these. My muse turned Judas. Panic surged. Nicholas's face ashen when I showed him. Harlan's lies from the grave. I burned those sketches years ago. Proof I quit. But doubt crept, insidious as frost, and when feds re-interviewed, their questions laced with skepticism, I snapped, not again. We can't keep dancing this ghost. He pulled away then, hurt flaring. Believe me or don't, Joseph, but don't let it poison us. The argument escalated, words weapons. Me accusing secrecy, him decrying my distrust. Maybe the city's still in your blood, he hurled, the barb landing true. I left for Denver that night, hotel room sterile as regret, staring at ceiling tiles while rain lashed windows. Days blurred into stakeout hell, but Nicholas's absence was the real vigil. Empty texts, a void where his voice should anchor. Climax crested in spring's thaw, Voss's appeals denied but his venom spreading via prison grapevine. A tip line lit up. Anonymous claim of Kane's involvement in a new ring, sketches surfacing in Laramie galleries. I drove to the ranch unbidden, finding Nicholas in the corral, breaking a colt with that patient grace. We end this, I said, dismounting. He nodded, weary. Auction house in town, owners a Voss crony. Let's confront. Tension thrummed as we rolled into Laramie, the gallery's polished facade mocking our grit. Inside, oils gleamed under spots. The proprietor, slick as oil, smirked at Nicholas. Back for royalties, Kane? Your talents wasted on hay bales. The sketches were his undeniable style, but dated pre-betrayal, Voss's ploy to frame from afar. Nicholas's voice broke steady. These are mine, but clean. Sold 'em fair before I walked. Harlan twisted 'em later. Proof tumbled out, receipts from attic trunks, timestamps clearing him. The owner crumbled under pressure, confessing Voss's posthumous setup via smuggled directives. Feds swooped, case closed for good, but the toll lingered. Nicholas, drained, admitting. I kept those sketches as reminders, stupid, sentimental. Should have torched 'em with the barn. Forgiveness flowed in the aftermath, truck idling outside as sunset bled orange. We're stronger for the scars, I said, hand on his knee. He leaned over, forehead to mine. But what if it's too much? You deserve steady, not this drama. The question hung, a precipice. My transfer approved, but city pull faint now. His ranch, our haven, demanding roots. We chose then, humanistic in its ache. Time apart, me in Cheyenne building community outreach for LGBTQ plus youth, him expanding the ranch into therapeutic riding for trauma survivors. Not goodbye, he whispered at parting. Ring returned as talisman. Just space to grow toward each other. Months stretched, letters bridging miles. His tales of colts gentled, mine of kids finding voice. Reunion sparked at Dust Hollow's first retreat, me facilitating sessions in the barn, Nicholas demoing rides with that timeless poise. Our eyes met across the circle, spark reigniting gentle as dawn. Missed you, I said later, under stars unchanged. Missed us. He smiled, pulling me close. Courage brought you back. That's all I needed. Summer's heat wave baked the plains. Mirages dancing on highways as I ferried teens from Cheyenne to Dust Hollow for the retreat's inaugural run. The kids, wary at first, backstories heavy with rejection, thawed under Nicholas's magic, his voice a bomb as he coaxed them onto ponies, teaching trust one rein at a time. See? Gentle hands get the best results, he'd say, winking at me over their heads, the gesture a private Morse code of endurance. Evenings, around campfires crackling with esmores and stories, we'd steal moments. His fingers lacing mine in shadow, whispers planning expansions. Art therapy fused with his old sketches, reclaimed as empowerment. But separation's toll etched subtle. My apartment in Cheyenne echoed lonely, nights scrolling his photos till sleep claimed me. His calls grew sparse, ranch demands pulling like tides. Emily visited once, quilt in tow, her presence a bridge to family ghosts. Dad softening, sent a card, no preaching. Over coffee, she grilled gentle. This cowboy, he worth the wait? I nodded, throat tight. He's teaching me love's not possession, but presence. She hugged fierce, leaving with bring him home sometime. Fall's harvest fair brought collision. A neighboring rancher, Buck Harlan no relation but kin in bigotry, cornered Nicholas at the beer tent. Heard you're runnin' a pansy camp, ruinin' good land. Fists flew before I arrived, Nicholas pinning Buck without malice, just firm warning. My land, my love, mind yours. Bruises faded, but the incident rippled, locals dividing like wheat from chaff. A petition circulated against the retreat, signatures from old guard fearing change. Nicholas weathered it stoic, but in private, doubts surfaced. Am I dragging you into fights I started? I countered with action, testifying at town hall, badge retired but passion ablaze. Dust Hollow's heart is hospitality, not hate. Let us build, not burn. Voices joined. Lena via video, Emily penning letters, kids from the retreat sharing raw testimonies. The vote swung narrow, retreat affirmed, but Nicholas pulled me aside after. Proud of you, but scared. What if it's never enough? His vulnerability cracked me open, leading to our deepest night yet. Not reunion's fire, but embers banked slow, bodies conversing forgiveness in the loft's hush. Dawn finding us entwined, resolved. Winter solstice marked pivot. A storm burying roads, stranding me at the ranch unawares. We hunkered, power flickering, candles casting golden halos as snow sealed us in. Board games turned confessional. Monopoly trades mirroring life choices. His night landing on my boardwalk with, I'd buy it all if it meant you here. Laughter yielded to truth. Him admitting ranch isolation's creep. Me confessing city's siren call faint but persistent. We design our own map, I proposed, sketching on napkin. Commute have by outpost relocation nearer, retreat co-managed. He kissed the ink stains from my fingers. Partners, not parallels. Spring bloomed defiant, petitions ashes fertilizing growth. A donor, anonymous, later revealed Emily's network, funded expansions. Studio for Nicholas's art classes, dorms for longer stays. Kids arrived in waves, their healings mirroring ours. One boy, echo of my youth, confiding over sketches. Your story, it gives me guts. Nicholas beamed from afar, pride mutual as we watched transformations unfold. Yet climax loomed subtle. A health scare, his cough lingering from fire smoke, doctor's note urging tests. Nothing, he insisted, but fear gnawed, echoes of his brother's fate. Denver specialist confirmed. Early emphysema, manageable with care. The diagnosis landed like a felled tree. Us in sterile waiting room, hands clasped white-knuckled. We'll fight it, I vowed, voice fierce. He squeezed back, eyes misting. Together, always. Regimen built. Clean air rides, meds regimented, my presence constant. Community rallied, potlucks with lung-healthy fare, wranglers covering chores. In vulnerability, our love humanized further. Him sketching me as guardian angel, wings of flannel. Me journaling our journey, pages for the kids' inspiration. Summer solstice retreat crescendoed with showcase. Teens exhibiting art. Nicholas unveiling a mural. Intertwined cowboys under rainbow arcs. Caption, gentle courage. Applause thundered, but backstage, tears flowed. His whisper. You chased me into this life. Grateful. I held him, heart swelling. Found us more like. The night sealed recommitment. Rings re-exchanged under mural's gaze. Vows renewed. In storms or sun, your hand in mine. Years cascaded. Ranch a beacon, drawing media, PBS special on Heartland Havens. Our story emblematic. Dad visited finally, halting at the corral, watching Nicholas with a colt, me beside. No words at first, then gruff. Look solid. Like you. Handshake bridged chasms. Quilt returned as heirloom. Emily married off kids there, toasts toasting tolerance. Nicholas's health stabilized, art blooming prolific. Galleries clamoring for ethical originals. One autumn eve, as leaves carpeted paths, we sat porch rockers, his head on my shoulder, sunset painting us gold. Courage gentle as this, he murmured, gesturing expanse. I kissed his temple. You taught me. In America's soul, we'd chased, fallen, risen. Love's barn rebuilt eternal. The decade's turn brought reflections, our story etched in ranch grooves. Faded boot prints in the barn aisle, children's laughter echoing from retreat dorms. Nicholas's sketches lined walls, each a chapter. The chase in charcoal fury, reconciliation in soft watercolors. My book, expanded to Chasing Gentle, hit shelves with foreword by him. Joseph didn't catch a criminal. He freed a man. Royalties seeded scholarships. Kids like us finding voices in Wyoming winds. Conflict resurfaced mild. A new wrangler, fresh-faced and questioning. Sparking Nicholas's mentor mode. Jealousy nipping irrational. He's just a kid. I grumbled over dinner, venison tender as his patience. Nicholas chuckled, fork pausing. Echoes of me, chasing horizons. Let him find his. Lesson absorbed, we volunteered jointly. LGBTQ plus ally trainings for state troopers, my badge legacy redeemed. Lena partnered, her precinct pioneering policies. Crediting Hale's cowboy wisdom. Family wove fuller. Dad's visits regular. Fishing trips where he'd grunt approvals of Nicholas's casts. Silences companionable. Mom quilted retreat blankets. Patterns pride flagged. Emily's brood called him Uncle Nick. Tumbling through haylofts with abandon. Holidays blended. Thanksgiving fusing turkey with fry bread from Nicholas's Navajo kin rediscovered. Toasts to ancestors who'd paved queer paths unseen. Health's shadow lengthened subtle. Nicholas's breath shallower on long rides, but spirit unbowed. We adapted trailers for outings, oxygen backpack disguised as saddlebag. A scare in 42. Flare-up landing him in Casper ICU. Rallied all. Kids sending drawings, Dad driving through blizzard with Mom's soup. Recovery slow, but his grip on my hand iron. Not done chasing sunsets with you. I wrote through vigils. Memoir sequel Gentle Horizons. Chapters on fragility's grace. Climax crested quiet, not blaze. Ranch expansion bid contested by developers eyeing progress. Condos over corrals. Town hall erupted. Buck's ghost and opposers yelling, "Keep it queer-free." Nicholas testified, voice winded but unwavering. "This land heals. Bulldoze it, you bury hearts." I followed, anecdotes of lives mended. Tears from attendees tipping scales. Victory bittersweet, expansion greenlit, but toll on him evident. Coughs racking post-speech. Post-win, we retreated to ridge overlook, blankets spread, stars wheeling above. "If I go first," he said soft, hand over mine. "Scatter me here, let the wind carry." Throat closed, I countered. "We go together old and ornery." Laughter mingled tears. Love's language fluent in ache. Retreat thrived, now national model, our story curriculum in empathy classes. Twilight years gilded. Silvered hairs matching rings. Rockers synced on porch. Grandkids. Emily's. Adopted strays. Learned roping from him. storytelling for me. One eve, as Aurora Rare danced Southern, Nicholas leaned in, chased you to this piece. I smiled, eternal hook set, found gentle courage in your arms. In Dust Hollow's embrace, America's humanism shone. Love, pursued and possessed, gentle as promised.